Okay, so I just want to welcome those who have just joined us on today's session. So this is where we're going to be covering how to post a simple supplier payment and the various options within that window. So just to make you aware, as I mentioned at the very start, if you weren't here at the very start, we're not going to be covering the supplier payments via modular. So that is a Sage University course, and the link should be in the chat, but it will also be in your follow-up email as well. So this is what we're going to be covering on today's session. So we're going to introduce the supplier payments window. So we'll then demonstrate how to pay invoices, post payments on accounts, which is usually used for deposits. We'll also talk about some of the options along the top of the window, and then lastly, different ways you can filter and organise the list. At the end of the demonstration, I will then come back to my slides to summarise the session, and we'll talk about upcoming webinars. Please do keep your questions coming throughout the session, so either me, Tina or Michael can pick those up as well. So the Sage 50 accounts makes it easy to pay your suppliers. So providing an organised space where you can include payment details such as supplier accounts, relevant references and payment amounts with the ability to allocate those payments to specific invoices. You can quickly and easily record payments against invoices, enter payments on accounts for deposits, and also generate a remittance for a payment via email or print. So what we'll do is we'll go straight into the software and we'll have a look at this process. Okay, so there's different ways you can access the supplier payments option. So for those of you who have been using Sage for a very long time, you might have accessed it via bank accounts, and you've got supplier payment along the top. You can also access it if you go into the suppliers module, and then you go into supplier payment along the top. Okay, so we're just bringing this window up here. So first things first is we're going to pay outstanding invoices. So we're going to select a supplier. I'm just going to select the one at the very top. I'm going to click OK. So you want to make sure when you're doing your payments, you want to make sure the correct bank account is selected. It is going to name the bank account that you would be using as well. You can also see your current balance in the very top left. You can then select the correct supplier from the drop down. So as you can see, I just selected Concept Stationery Supplies. It also gives me the name of the supplier and the current outstanding balance on their account. You want to also make sure that the date is correct along the top. You can also change the reference if you would like to. So to pay outstanding invoices, you can select the relevant invoice that you want to pay. So you select the payment box here. You can either manually type the amount in the box, or you can pay in full. So as you can see, you can just go down the list, pay in full, and it will go down and put the amount that is outstanding in there. It also tells you as well the amount that you've currently calculated by pressing pay in full. Either along the top here in amount, or in the bottom right, you've got analysis total. Once you're happy with what you've allocated there, you can just click save. Mine's in a different financial year, but that's fine. And it's paid those invoices for me. So if we then click on transactions, you can then see I've got a purchase payment there for that full balance. If we pop back into suppliers, and we're just going to pop back into supplier payment. And I'm going to look at the posting a payment on account. So you still, like I say, you still need to make sure your correct bank account is selected. You then need to select your supplier. So this time I'm going to post it for Mia's Insurance. So you can see I don't currently have any invoices for Mayors Insurance. So usually when you're paying your deposit, you haven't yet been given an invoice. So like you can see, you can leave it as backs. I'm going to change this and I'm just going to say it's for my deposit. You can choose to put an extra reference in if you need. Make sure your date is correct for what you're posting it for. And then you just post that amount in there. So I'm just going to post a deposit for £500. You'll just click save, saying there's an unallocated payment for a balance of 500. Do you want to post this payment on account? And you're going to click yes. So that's posted that for me. Now to allocate a payment on account to an invoice, so maybe if you want to pay, you now received an invoice and you now want to allocate that payment on account to reduce that balance of the invoice. So let's just say I've got a supplier already set up with this information. So we're going to go into Super Clean this time. And as you can see, I've now got 3 invoices, but I've also got a payment on account for a deposit. So you can click pay in full on the deposit because you want to use that full 200. And then you would select the relevant invoice you want to allocate it to. So you might want to manually type in the amount for the payment on account. So you might want to just type in the 200 because you might just want to reduce the balance of 587 by £200, and you might want to pay the remainder of that invoice at a later date. So then that invoice would still be outstanding, but it would be a reduced amount. Alternatively, if you did click pay in full, it would allocate £200 to the 587, but then it would then post another payment, so a purchase payment, for the remaining balance. So you can see there I've got £387.50. So that's then going to allocate the payment on account and post a purchase payment for that one invoice. So if I click save, then I go into that supplier and look at the activity. You can see now I've got that purchase payment for that £387.50. And then there's my deposit also allocated to the same invoice. Now, if you're on VAT Cash Accounting, that might be slightly different because your payments and your invoices have to be the same tax code. So I've got a company already prepared. So I'll pop into my VAT Cash company. And I'm just going to pop into my suppliers there. So if I go into Batch Supplier Payment, and I go into Concept Stationery Supplies, you can see I've got that payment on account at the very bottom for £600, and that's on a tax code of T1. But I've also got 2 invoices, one on T1 and one on T0. So if I try and allocate my payment on account to the invoice that's a T0, if I click save, I'm going to get an error message telling me that the payment and the invoice don't match on the tax codes. So you would need to find out which one is incorrect, and you need to make that change. Okay, let's just pop back to my other company. Okay. So let's have a look back in the supplier window. I now just want to cover the options that you get along the top. So we've already covered pay in full. So like you say, you can press pay in full or you can press F3 on your keyboard when you are in that payment box. So I'm just going to choose a supplier briefly. Okay, so the other options you've got, so you've got Wizard. So this will help you choose or help you go through the process of what you want to do. So it might be you want to pay invoices, you want to allocate your credit notes to your invoices, you want to allocate payments on accounts to invoices, so that's what we've just covered there, you could use the wizard. But when you use the wizard for the top 3 processes, it's not going to allow you to select which invoices you want to allocate them to. It is just going to select them from the top of the list, however you have them organized. So whether that be by transaction number, by date, and so on and so forth. So it depends on how you've got them organized along here. It will always pick the invoices at the top. Next, we've got automatic. So this option will distribute the amount that you enter into this box. So say if we did 500 and we clicked automatic, again, it's going to pick the invoices that appear from the top. If you want to filter it by, might be like due on, so you might want the older dates to be filtered. You do need to filter it first before you click automatic. You've also got department. So this is default set to 0, but it can be changed. But be mindful, this may impact some reports. And then lastly, you've got create remittance. So you may see this option, and this is how you create a remittance manually. So you just click that to create the remittance for the payments that you're doing. If you do not see this option, it may be because the setting is already changed so that it'll create the remittance automatically for every payment that you do. If you do want to set it so it creates automatically, if we just pop out of here, you go into settings along the top, and then you go into bank defaults, and you've got the option always create a remittance. So you tick that box and click OK. And when we go back into supplier payments, it no longer needs that button, so it's taken it away. I'm not going to go into details on how to process remittances. We do have a separate session on our help centre on our recordings page. Next, I just want to cover, and kind of lastly, is the filtering. So I'm just going to open up concept stationary replies again. So what you can do is you can actually reduce the amount of column headers that you see in here. So some of them will stay because they are default and they are needed. But if you right click on your mouse anywhere across the column headers, you can actually take away some of the options that you don't actually need. So it might be that you just want to use, I don't know, the top 3, for example. So then you can really reduce this down. You must have a supplier selected before being able to filter the options down. It is user specific, so if you do this on yours, your colleague on their machine is not going to see the same options. And it does save as well. But also as well, it's not set per supplier, so it will show reduced headers for all. If you want to get them back, you just right click again. And if you want them all back, you can just click use defaults and it brings all the columns back for you. You can also as well click show and you can just choose from all, due, or by date range. If you select date range, you can then enter a date range in here. And you've also got this option here. So at the moment, mine is shown line by line. If you want to just show the invoice as a header level, so it's all the lines condensed into one, it will just show header level in the full value of that invoice. To get it back, you just tick the list and it'll show it like item line by item line. Okay, so that is how you can pay off your supplier invoices, post payments on accounts for deposits, and allocate at a later date, but also filter your invoice list to make it easier to find what you are looking for. What I'll show you now is I want to show you some upcoming webinars that we've got, but I'll also show you where you can find our recorded sessions. So if you want to watch the session on remittances, I'll show you how to find that. So if you are on version 29, you will have a free webinars tile here. You can just click more info. If you use 28, I think it's either in the help column, or it might be in web links. You've got access to webinars within there as well. But I'm just going to click in more info, and I'll show you how to find those webinars. So I'll just quickly cover the upcoming. So what we've got coming up is tomorrow, we've got batch reporting, another quick learn. We've got importing transactions, running year end, reconciling your bank account. Again, you can click on view recordings in here. And then you can scroll down. It is in alphabetical order. I can see a question has come through there from Hillary. How do I create a remittance? When I go into settings, it is ticked to create, but you have no icon on the supplier payment. So if it's ticked in bank defaults to create automatically, you don't need that icon. It will do it automatically in the background for you. So that's why you're not seeing that option. So let's have a look for the remittances session. So if we scroll all the way down, we've got quite a lot on here now. There we go. We've got the remittances there. You can click watch now. We can watch that in your own time, pause it, rewind it, and just watch it at your own speed. If we go to the very bottom of the registration page, we've also got as well, if you don't find a topic that we haven't already covered in the recordings page or on the upcoming, you can also suggest a topic for us to cover as well, so we do look at that for future sessions. Just while we're waiting for some more questions coming through as well, I just want to make sure you are aware that you can also make suggestions for the programme. So if you are coming up with ideas or you want to see features in the programme, on your home page, you have a link for roadmap. If you click on that roadmap, this tells you what has been delivered for currently, what we're launching soon, and what we're looking to do in the future with the software. If you want to submit an idea, you can click on submit an idea or vote. So I'll wait for this to load. So in here, you can see other suggestions from other users. You can vote on these. You can also ask a question. So you can also pop in your own suggestion as well. You'll just need to register if you want to submit that idea. I can see the question coming through there. Where do you find the remittances that is created? I'll just quickly show you just while we're waiting for questions to come through. So I can see Fiona's asking that one. So if you go to bank accounts and you've got the remittances option along the top, and as you can see, it's created that one for me there. So again, bank accounts, remittances. But like I say, we do have a full session on our help centre, which will walk you through that process. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop back to my slides. So that does bring us to the end of today's session. Please feel free to stay around for the next couple of minutes or so if you are waiting for an answer to a question or you have any further questions to ask. If you've got what you needed today and you want to leave the session, you will receive an email in around an hour or so with links to both our webinar schedule and today's recorded session. But also as well, it is going to include that Sage University link for the salary and supplier payments. Upon exiting the session, you will see a survey at the end. If you could please let us know any feedback regarding today's session. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put myself on mute to see if I can assist with any of the questions. See a questions that's come in there from Matt. So you can, like I say, Tina has just replied to that saying there are some reports. Again, you can say pop into that supplier payments window and you can filter it by due, as I'll just show you again just before we wrap up that session. So again, you can run reports, or again in the supplier payments, I don't think I've got any that'll make it obvious, but you can filter it by due. What that would do is that would show invoices that are already due. If you're just looking at your balances as well, if you've got, I think it's standard and professional, if you might have the manage payments option on the supplier list in the top right. You can also see which suppliers are overdue as well. Okay, so majority of the questions seem to have been answered. So what I'll do now is I'll wrap this session up. I want to say thank you to Tina and Michael, who's been on hand today to answer your questions. And thank you to you all for your participation. Just a reminder, we have got plenty of sessions over the next couple of weeks, so don't be shy and get registered. So I want to say another thank you and take care.